Oswald cannot remember their past, or perhaps they just choose not to acknowledge it. They were human at first, and not necessarily a bad one. They were born into a family in a small village, where they had plenty of friends to hang out with and adults to teach them right from wrong. At 6, they began going to school, though they didn't much enjoy learning. However, as the years went on, they began enjoying their small, quaint life, living each day to the fullest, joining any activities they could. But as you should know by how they are now, there was no way for it to last. They joined a play a group of older kids were working on for their parents, and they enjoyed it far more than they would have ever imagined. Stepping into the shoes of a made-up person was so fun, even if they were playing the villain. Hearing the older kids scream in terror as they appeared filled them with so much pride. On the night of the play, even their own parents came to watch, despite it being past bedtime. Behind the curtain, they heard the cheers of the crowd, and they nearly cracked their evil makeup from smiling so much. As their cue was set, they walked out, expecting the cheers to continue, or perhaps screams they've gotten so fond of. But no. The audience began to boo them, which made sense as they were the villain. But Oswald, who has long forgotten the name they once had, snapped at the crowd. They began seeing red, reaching down to their knife, leaping across the stage and stabbing the main character in the chest. They looked down at their bloody hands, tears diluting the red covering the stage. The lights went out, the curtains closing, as the older kids began pulling them away from the body, screaming questions at them, cursing and kicking them. Oswald looked at the knife, still in their hands, and dropped it to the ground, sobbing. They thought the knife was fake. Why did they stop cheering? Was the blood not fake? Did someone switch them? They never got to find out the truth. The next day, the village put them on trial, and it was decided that they would be hung for their crimes. The 12-year-old human was killed without a single ounce of pity for their situation. After their death, Oswald became trapped in purgatory for an insurmountable amount of time. They were put there as they awaited judgment, but there was nothing to do but think to pass the time. Years passed as they sat in eternal darkness, though they never knew how many. There was only ever a beginning and end to this portion of their journey, and that was when there was another being with them. The being seemed to be only whatever opposite was to their environment, so their presence filled Oswald with every emotion that was overwhelming besides emptiness. When they returned, it somehow felt even stronger, possibly since it had been such a long time since they had felt any of it. They were crying and yelling and smiling ear to ear all at the same time, although those all disappeared as soon as they entered hell. Oswald had been adopted by a rich demon family as they had died a child and still needed to be cared for. In the beginning, they were still numb from the void of purgatory, but as they entered their teen years, they grew into life in hell, and became incredibly rebellious after making a friend who was a born demon. They would go sneak into the wrath ring of hell and watch the fights, and at some point they began joining. In one fight, Oswald lost a horn, which they kept as a trophy after winning the fight. However, their parents found out because of this permanent damage, and they were cursed to never be able to enter the Wrath Ring ever again. They learned what born demons were capable of. Hellborn demons have bits of magic from the ring they were born in, while human-born demons slowly gain magic the longer they stay in the ring they were placed in. However, there is a caveat. Human-born demons are weakened in rings they were not placed in, especially if they are new demons. So they were risking their life in two ways going to the Wrath Ring. They were locked away in their house for months after the incident. They began going to school shortly after returning from their isolation, and they enjoyed it a lot better the second time around, as they became more curious and open to learning. Oswald graduated school at 18 and immediately began working full-time for a death dog sanctuary. The dogs constantly smell like death, but demons become immune to it after a while, and when you do, they're very sweet hell animals. However, on the day of reckoning, Oswald was transporting a very excited death dog named Charles, who wanted to run everywhere at paces Oswald couldn't keep up with. They finally cornered Charles and leaned on a wall as they caught their breath, but at that same exact moment, some witch in the living world opened up a portal, which they fell through, immediately hitting their head on a goat witch and bird lady's child of lore, getting amnesia. The next couple months, the two spend their time reteaching Oswald things and trying to spark some possible memories at the same time. And that's where we are now. I don't actually remember any of the things that happened earlier. Before I got here, but I don't know who it was that said all of that. That kind of sounded like my voice. I'm just kind of learning all of these things right now too, but it seems like that might be my memories, but I don't really know. I hope you guys enjoyed these speed paints and this story that could just be a tall tale, for all I know, honestly. I can't really remember many things, but I'm trying. So just stick with me, I guess. Thank you for watching, and, next will be Mossy's, I think, since Kiana is still working on her, I think she's getting her wings pruned? I don't know, preened? I don't know, bird stuff is complicated. I'm still learning. But, thank you for watching. Next will be Mossy's, perhaps. And, outro! It's kind of weird and lonely doing it by myself, but outro!